If you're new to vegetable gardening and you want to get a start, this is a really great way to start a vegetable garden. And it takes up a lot less square footage than you would think, and you can produce a lot of fresh greens and fresh produce. The most essential part of starting a garden is really preparing the area and making sure that you've got good soil that's well draining, that has good airspace in the soil so that plants can begin to root in and really thrive. There's a couple different products that we carry that you can use to amend the soil that's in the existing area and also to fill raised beds up so that you get good soil depth on your freshly planted vegetables. The products I like to use, the compressed bale of peat moss here is very easy to use. It's really compacted and compressed in this bale, so as you bust it up, it really expands and fills a lot of space. So that's kind of a good base soil to use. The raised bed mix also, you could essentially fill an entire raised bed garden with the raised bed mix if you wanted. I just like to add other things in that are going to add organic matter and release nutrients to the plants as they continue to grow. So the raised bed mix is great. Then I add two different types of compost. There is the Nature's Blend compost. This one has it has humates in it. It also has composted cattle manure, composted feather meal, and composted alfalfa. So that's a really well composted product that has very small particle sizes, so it breaks down and releases nutrients to plants very quickly. And then I'll use cotton boll compost as a little bit larger compost product, which is composted from cotton seed hulls. And that's a really nice product as well, and you get a lot of bang for your buck with that bag. So kind of a combination of these four products blended together to raise your beds up works really well. And you can also just turn it and till it into the existing soil that's below grade. These raised beds that I'm working in today are raised up about 1 foot, and I'm using 2x12 boards to build this frame out. And it is, the one that I've got here is about 32 foot, but it's shaped in an angle here. And because it just fits into my backyard in this space easily for me. And we can produce a lot of early season vegetables, and then when it becomes warmer out, we can replace some of these early season plantings with some of the warm season vegetables. So we're gonna be talking about those different things, but it's always important to remember to start with the soil. And if you have really good soil, you can have really good produce. When you're getting ready to start your vegetable garden, the most exciting part of planting the garden is planning and selecting the different things that you want to plant in your garden. It's really, each garden's going to be unique to whoever is going to be eating the product that's coming out of it. My family likes to eat a lot of leafy greens, and so we're going to be talking about a lot of those today, but you've got a lot of options for early spring. There's lettuces and spinach, kale, there's cabbage, broccoli, there's carrots, potatoes, onions. All of those things work perfect right now, and this is the appropriate time to be planting. The main difference when you're planting between seeds or from plants is that you have a longer time to harvest if you're going to be planting from seed than if you actually start with something that's already up and growing from a garden center. Some of the things that are quick and easy, like if you want to do cilantro from seed, that works really well and will germinate really quickly, or you can buy it from a plant. And what I like to do is I'll actually plant the plant and then plant seeds between my plants so that I have sequential harvests. The other things that you can do would be arugula. And arugula comes up really fast, as do all the lettuces, the spinach, the kale. And you can also plant carrots from seed, and that's really best done from seed. So there's just a difference of time to harvest when you're planting from seed or planting from an actual plant. I plant some of both in my garden so that I can have sequential harvests and so that I can select the varieties of things that I want to eat and enjoy. So next, we're going to show you how to plant these different types of plants. One of my favorite things to grow in my garden is potatoes. Now, they're really easy to grow, so that might be why I like them. I also just really enjoy the kids getting in the garden and then digging them up. They also produce potatoes pretty quickly, and I'll normally be pulling my potatoes out by the end of June or even early July, depending on the season. When you're planting potatoes, you can actually plant the whole potato and it will produce a plant from that. Off of the roots of the potato is where you will develop new potatoes growing off the side of it. But you can get a lot more bang for your buck if you actually divide your potatoes. So what you'll do is you'll actually cut the potato, leaving 3 of the eyes, which are kind of like the little nodule that's coming out of the potato. And you'll cut 3 of those eyes out to start a new plant. So this potato I've cut in half to duplicate how many potatoes I can then plant in the garden. When you make that cut, you do have to let it callus so that it dries, because if you put a potato into the ground and it's still wet, it can then rot. So you cut your potatoes and then let them callus over for a day or two so they're not soft on the inside anymore. And once they've callused over, then you can plant your potato. Planting potatoes is really easy. And what you want to do is you want to dig a deep hole. I dig my hole about 1 foot deep so that it's at the base of my raised garden bed. And then I set the potato at the bottom of the hole. Lightly covering the potato up. It's just enough to cover the top of the potato. As soon as I start seeing new growth come out of the potato, I then bury and cover up the new growth that's coming out of the potato. As it continues to grow up, I will continue to fill the hole in until it gets to ground level. So eventually all of this existing soil that was once excavated from the hole will be then covering up the new growth, and the ground will be level again. All up and down that new shoot and that new stem is where new potatoes will begin to develop. And then in just a short couple months, we'll be ready to dig those up, harvest them, and have some really nice mashed potatoes from a Yukon Gold potato. That's the variety I like, but there's a lot of varieties to choose from. They're really fun, and the best part is when you get to dig them and play in the dirt. Growing leafy greens, you can really do this twice a year, this spring and then again in the fall. I actually have some spinach that's overwintered in my garden, and it's growing back beautifully, and we've already started to pick and harvest spinach that was planted last fall. To supplement that, I'm getting ready to plant all of my other leafy greens for early spring. Those are mostly lettuces and kales and then spinach. I've got romaine lettuce that I like to use, and I can harvest those once the heads develop. I've got some head type lettuce that'll create not quite what you find in the grocery store like an iceberg lettuce, but it'll be a head type lettuce that's very similar to that. And then we've got butter crunch lettuce that's going to be a leaf lettuce, where you can continually harvest these off, and you can get sequential harvests on these until our temperatures really get into consistently in the 90 degrees and up. My favorite green out of all the greens that we grow is kale though. Kale does really well, and I can actually plant it in the spring and continue to harvest off of my kale throughout the course of the whole summer and even into the late fall. This is a curled kale, which is my favorite of the kales because it produces smaller leaves, which means having a smaller leaf, it produces more leaves. So I can have more harvests than if I had something that had a really big leaf. With the romaine and the head type lettuce, you really get one harvest per plant, and that's gonna take some time to get to maturity. Where leafy things like kale or the butter crunch lettuce or spinach, you can continually harvest almost right directly after you plant it. Once it sends up its first set of new leaves for that new growth, you can begin to harvest the new leaves. The kale is the thing that I grow the most of because my kids love it, and it's really easy. You can use it fresh in salads, or you can bake it in the oven and make some nice kale chips. So plant your leafy greens. They're healthy and they're really easy to grow. One of the other things I love to grow in my garden is onions. They are very easy to grow also, and there's a lot of different flavors that you can get with onions. There are the red onions. These will swell up into a large slicing onion. You've got yellow onions and then the white onions. There's different varieties within the onions, but these are three that I routinely plant because they just swell up so nice. You can mix them with potatoes or really use them with anything. I tried for the first time last fall to plant some scallions from seed, and so I just pulled these out today. I'll be trimming these off and then using these as a chive or as a scallion style onion. So I'll be pulling out my existing ones that were planted in the fall for spring harvest, and then I'll be replacing them with my larger onions that I'll use for slicing for this late in the summer. The other things I like to grow that will be getting planted today, some of the cabbage and then broccoli. I've got some different types of Napa cabbage, a red cabbage head, and then a Destiny broccoli. And these will fill up on the end of the garden here, and I'll be able to harvest these, and by the time I'm ready to harvest and pull these out of the ground, I'll be getting ready to back plant these with things like peppers or even squash. Those are hot season items that really shouldn't be planted yet, along with tomatoes. We just have to wait to get through this early spring crop of vegetable gardening, and then we'll move it into the summer heat where those other things will really thrive. Broccoli, cabbage, kale, onions, potatoes, and a lot of herbs are perfect for early spring planting and early summer harvest. These are some of my favorite herbs that I'll be planting today also. I've got an Italian parsley, and amazingly, my curled parsley is actually coming back from what I planted last fall, as are my chives. I'll be planting some new chives to replace those so that as I harvest off those, I'll have sequential chives to grow. I'll be planting arugula, cilantro, some thyme, Those are my favorites. I'll be planting rosemary, although it's very early for it. I want to give it a shot this year and see how well it does if I plant it early. But these are the herbs that I'll be planting. There's other things you can plant right now. You can plant oregano, some of the different mints, as well as all of these other ones. If you're looking for any of these products, we have all of this stuff at Family Tree Nursery. We have 3 convenient locations in the Kansas City area, one in Liberty, one in Shawnee, and then one in Overland Park. We have a great staff who would be happy to answer any questions, and we'd love to see you at Family Tree Nursery to start your early spring garden.